Hey hunters, hey, tonight's video, survival. You know, been trying to get my wife involved in survival I tried for many years, and we were kind of just hey, go to the store and buy what you need for the next couple days, right? And I was like, yeah. Just kind of always seen the writing on the wall, right? And then this COVID thing hit, and yeah, when stores started running out and all that, yeah, crazy. So anyway, we're back rolling now, though. She's fully on board and gets it, and we make sure we have enough provisions. So, hey, tonight I promised you guys a video. I promised you guys a video on survival. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Number one, survival. Positive mental attitude. You got to have it right up here. It's kind of funny. You can watch... I know it's weird, but there's nothing else on TV. I don't watch NASCAR anymore, and but I watch Naked and Afraid. I know it's hokey. I know there's cameramen there, but I look at it from a psychological aspect. I see how frustration and all that stuff will mess with somebody's OODA loop. You know, it gets in their head, and they can't shake it. They end up quitting. And you know, it's very interesting. So positive mental attitude is probably the number one survival tool. I'll tell you a little bit about my survival background. Marine Corps 21 years. 1999 I went to Bridgeport, California, to the Mountain Warfare Training Center, Marine Corps Mountain Warfare Training Center, and I went through the Mountain Survival Course summer package. And man, I ended up getting honor grad out of that thing. It was pretty cool. But I loved it. I mean, I lived it, and it became real. The whole thing. It was about 27 to 30 days long. They never told us how long it was going to be, so you kind of just were in for the ride. But it was good. We did a week of basically mentorship, or squad week, where there was 2 squads of us, and we had an instructor there to help us and go through all the different things, the 6 elements, and learn them. And of course we had classroom instruction prior to that. And then we had, I can't remember, 4 or 5 days of isolation, and then several days of movement to a DAR while people were chasing us. And when you're in the mountains, go high. Stay away from the roads and go high. Pays big dividends. People are lazy. They didn't want to go to 10,000 feet. We did. So, kind of cool. You know, you go up to about 10, 11,000 feet, kind of hard to breathe. So we went up above the tree line and did our movement, and never got harassed at all. So pretty cool. But I loved it. I fell in love with it, and I came back. I was stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I was in 1st Battalion, 8th Marines at the time, and I started training my Marines on those things. You know, Marine Corps is train the trainer. When you go to a school in the military, it's your duty to come back and share that knowledge with your teammates. So I did that, and then later on we had another opportunity. I got to take my platoon up to Bridgeport as part of a battalion summer package, and every one of my Marines, to include my corpsman, got fired with bow and drill. So it's all technique. It's all technique. So anyway, that's my survival thing. and I've had a survival kit in my truck since then. I've had a survival kit in all my vehicles. I've had a go bag. I call it a go bag. I don't call it a 72-hour bag. I call it a forever bag, because you might have to live out of that thing forever. One of the number one takeaways for survival is you have the rest of your life to survive. It depends on you how long that is. So you got the rest of your life to survive. Depends on you how long it is. So without further ado, let's talk about the 6 elements of survival. They're pretty easy to remember. There's only 6 elements. You got food, fire, and first aid. That's 3 F's, right? Reminds me of my report card. 3 F's, food, fire, and first aid. Then you got 2 S's, shelter and signaling. And then you got probably the most important, which is water. So that's it. Food, fire, first aid, signaling, shelter, and water. First 24-hour priorities. So initially, first 24 hours, you got to assess your environment. Are you in a permissive, semi-permissive, or non-permissive environment? Because that's going to depend on how you do. You probably don't even know what I just said, some of you. A permissive environment is like I'm at now. I'm not worried about getting attacked. There's no enemy forces lurking in the woods to get me. I have freedom of movement to do whatever I want, to talk to anybody I want. That's permissive. Semi-permissive is where maybe there's a protest downtown. They're starting to burn stuff, and you live right outside of town, and depending upon what happens, which way they come, it could turn non-permissive quickly. That's probably a semi-permissive environment where there are enemy forces operating in the area, but contact is not likely. A non-permissive environment is there is enemy forces actively seeking you, and they are in the area. That is a non-permissive environment. So those are the 3 types of environment that you got to tailor your survival to. Okay. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead. I got my survival kit laid out here. I'm just kind of going to go through it. I'm going to show you each and every one of them. That's my first aid bag back there, but I just kind of got it all laid out on the table, just so you kind of get it. I'll set you back up here, and I'm going to go through it. All right. I need a cameraman, right? All right. First, we're going to start off with food. All right, food. Well, time out. Let me back up a little bit. I was talking about your first 24-hour priorities, right? So your first 24-hour priorities, mine, if I'm in a permissive environment, is fire, water, and shelter. That's my first 24-hour priorities. Then the second 24-hour priorities is signaling and food. And then from then on, it's food and improve your situation, improve your structure. I mean, if you're there long enough, build a log cabin. For God's sakes, that's what the pioneers did, right? They moved into Missouri. We homestead this 5 acres, this 40 acres, or whatever it was, and they cut down timber and trees and started building them a house. So if you're there long enough, hey, the more you work, the better you make it on yourself. To try to conserve energy by not doing anything messes with your psychology. So you got to stay busy. It burns time, and you get things done, which improves your situation. So you always want to improve your situation. So first 24 hours, like I said, mine's water, fire, and shelter. Second 24 hours is signaling and food. if I'm in a permissive environment. So, and we'll just do this whole video on a permissive environment. Obviously, you can think about it. What would you do? How would you hide a fire? There's something called a Dakota hole where you can kind of conceal your fire. Make sure you're in trees so it disperses the smoke. There's a lot of different things you can do. So, all right. Without further ado, we're going to get into food. So, food, what I carry in my deals, I got snares. This is a Thompson snare. I got more than this. I just pulled this out of my kit just as a demo. This is a small game snare for squirrels. And if you're a vegetarian in a survival situation, you're going to die. You can't eat enough pine needles to live. So I'm just letting you know that up front. All right. So this is a Thompson snare. Hopefully you can see it against my shirt, but it's got an anchor point. It's got an anchor. So I got screws too in my kit, and what I'll do is I'll screw this to a tree. The reason you want to do that and you don't want to tie it to a tree is because if you get a small animal caught in there, they can, if it doesn't kill them, they can chew it off. They'll chew through the rope or cordage, 550 cord usually what I use, and you lose your snare. So you don't want to do that. So you want to anchor it into a tree, something that they can't chew through. So that's a Thompson snare right there. All right. I'm going to boost the back of this thing a little bit to get it down so you can see a little better. There we go. Okay. Another thing I have. This is pretty cool. Got this from a really good friend of mine who's probably watching this video. Bought them at a tackle shop. It's called a Reel-O-Matic. So basically, you attach this screw to a whatever. You got your line with a swivel. You attach this, and it's spring loaded, right? So, and you set it. It's got a little clip in here every so often, like here, and you just set it, and you got your bait on the end of the line, and you got it in the water at whatever depth you want it, and when a fish grabs it, it just reels it right back up. So really cool. They don't weigh anything. Great to keep at least one in your survival kit, maybe two. Good stuff. Reel-O-Matic. I don't know who it's made by. Let me see my glasses. Might be like H&M or H&O. Let me see if it's H&H. H&H Lure Company. So Reel-O-Matic. So you can probably Google that, buy that off Amazon, but I think this came from Academy Sports and Outdoors or something down south. Really cool. Next thing I have is a trap. Alright. You don't want to set these up in your yard if you got dogs or chance kids can play with them. But they're relatively simple to set up. And you can put them around on game trails or around bait. And again, you got to anchor it off with something sturdy, because if you don't, they'll drag it off. So make sure you anchor these things off. But yeah, you catch a deer with this. You catch a wild dog or even a domestic animal with it, or a coyote. They're not getting loose. And yes, you can eat coyote, and they taste just like dog. And yes, I've eaten dog too. I don't know what kind it was. It wasn't a German Shepherd, but I don't know. It was weird. Anyway, really good, easy to set up, and they're simple pressure. Boop, they step. Just when you set it, you got the lever. After you got it out, you just set the pad, and when they step on it, it slams this thing shut. I'm not going to mess with it because it hurts when you get it on your thumb. Anyway, so I carry that too. I know it's a lot of weight. This is kind of heavy to carry, but I think if you catch a deer or a pig with this, I think it's well worth the weight. All right. K-bar. This is the one I actually carried when I was in the Marine Corps. This is, you can tie it to a stick, a long stick, and make a spear out of it, or a stabbing tool. So you need a very good sharp knife. Last thing about food, there's two things. One, this is my old canteen cup. Tape on the sides, so you got it on the fire, you don't burn your lips when you're drinking it. Kind of neat, you can do that. You got to have something to prepare your food with. Let me tell you why. If you kill an animal and you skin it, process it, and you stick a stick in it and stick it over the fire, and you cook it and you eat it, you lose a lot of nutrients. But if you take that same animal and you cut it up into sections and you put it in your cup and you put water with it and you boil it, you can boil it with vegetation to add flavor, maybe pine needles or something like that, or prickly lettuce or dandelion greens or whatever. You can boil that and then eat all the contents, probably except for the bones. You can suck the marrow out of the bones, right? When you're done with that, you can drink the broth. When you drink the broth, you get all the nutrients out of that animal. So boiling is the way to go in a survival situation. You know, backyard barbecue, hey, put it on the fire, right? But for a survival situation, you need a metal pot, something good to cook, something good to boil with. And you can eat a lot of food with this. Now some of you say, well, how long is the food gonna last? Well, if you got a cold creek near, depending upon what the weather is, but I mean a cold creek down in the 40s, 30s, high 30s, low 40s, you can probably keep your food for up to 6 days in that, just like a refrigerator. Keep it in a bag, make sure you put it, make sure it's a sealed bag, and you put it under the water, put a rock on it. It'll keep your food for that long. Now, if you make jerky out of it, how do you make jerky? You can make sun jerky by cutting it in strips and hanging it up and letting it dry in the sun, or you can hang it up on a stick over a fire, dry it out with the fire, and smoke it. And that's how the pioneers made jerky, and I've made jerky like that before, and it's good. Actually, really cool. All right. So we talked about sharp knife. We talked about pot. I want to talk about this. I've had this for a very long time. But this is charcoal. All right. And it's not Royal Oak or Kingsford charcoal. It's charcoal out of a fire. And you want to keep this in your survival kit in the event you ingest anything poisonous, such as a poisonous plant or whatever. I got some questions about mushrooms. Check this out. Don't eat a mushroom. It's fungi, it has zero nutritional value, and it's not worth the risk. Do not eat a mushroom if you're in a survival situation. Unless you find a pack of portobellos from Food Line or wherever, then you might want to eat them. But anyway, so you got this charcoal. Ingest that. Now there is a testing procedure. I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole other class. But there is a testing procedure how you can rub the plant on the sensitive part of your arm, rub the plant on the sensitive part of your neck or your lips, wait a little while, put some in your mouth, and then spit it out, wait a little while, and then chew it, spit it out, wait a little while, bite a little bit, taste it, eat it, just a little bit, wait a little while, and then, anyway, whatever. So, but it's a whole testing procedure. I'm sure you can Google it. Everything's on Google now, right? Okay. That's pretty much all I have for food. I got my traps. I got my, oh, here you go. Here's another handy tool. Not necessary, but makes skinning really easier, right? So, really good tool. One more thing. Now, I know this has got a serrated edge down here, but you see that belly on the knife? That's perfect for skinning small game or deer or whatever. But you got to have that belly. You don't want a Tanto style blade, as you'll just butcher it, right? Make sure you got a good belly on the knife if you're going to be skinning an animal. This stays in my survival kit. So, all right, got that done. So we talked about food. I'm gonna go to first aid. This is my first aid kit. I know it's big. It straps to the outside of my pack. Yours doesn't have to be this big. Simple things like sugar. Sugar is a disinfectant, believe it or not, and it's also food. But you can put sugar on a wound and it will disinfect it to a point. Iodine, another good thing to carry in your first aid kit, has dual purpose. Iodine, you can put it on a cut to prevent infection. You can also purify water with it. Correction, you can disinfect water with it. You can't purify water with it. Okay, so I'm just going to go through this. This is rather big, and if I was just had my survival bag, I wouldn't carry all this, but this goes on my pack, so I carry it. So this is a field surgical kit, scalpels, sutures, different types of forceps and all that. It's military, and I've had this for a very long time, and I do keep it. You never know, right? All right. Obviously, tape, quick clot. I got more tape in here. I got some alcohol in here. Not that kind of alcohol. And then you go in here. I got assorted bandages and wraps and more tape and alcohol prep pads, a lot of them, and that's also a fire starter. That's also a fire starter. So, a cravette, eye patch stuff, you know, just your basic first aid stuff. And I got a couple tourniquets in there as well. So, anyway, so that's my first aid stuff. I know it's kind of big, but like I said, it goes on the outside of my pack. If I was just going to take a survival bag, I would trim this down to the bare necessities, which would probably be some disinfectant, the alcohol wipes, probably some bandages, just basic simple stuff. So, anyway, that's first aid. So we've covered food, first aid. Now let's cover fire. Hey, Walmart, I don't know, $4.99, right? So, kind of cool. Whatever. So, it's got a whistle, so there's signaling. It's got a little button compass on it. And, you know, compass is not necessary. You can make a compass. You can make a sundial compass. It takes one whole complete day. Oh, why I fixed my chair. It takes one whole complete day to make a sundial. But if you can carry something like this, hell, why not? All you really need to know is where north is, so you know where to move. Inside here, it's got the little O-ring, so it's waterproof. And you got hurricane matches, right? So you got matches. And it's got a little striker on the side of it for your matches, and it also has, bless me, it also has cordage. There's a piece of cordage, right? So, and you can, you know, in a pinch, if you just need to go, you can throw it around your neck, shove it down your shirt, whatever you need to do. Pretty handy. So I thought it was cool. Got a little ball in it too. I didn't know that. Anyway, so signaling. There's some signaling. There's some fire. A lot of people ask me about these. It's fire starter material. It's good, but you don't need this whole brick. That thing's heavy. You just need one stick of it. Just a small stick of it would be fine to carry. Make sure you put it in a sealed container, because if you don't, it'll dry out. And then it'll get all crumbly. But, old trusty, what's wrong with that? like at an AC/DC concert. Nah. Anyway, it doesn't hurt to have a lighter, but when they get wet, they don't work. You got to let them dry out. They also break, right? Remember, there's flint in here, so if you ever get in a pinch and your lighter runs out, make sure you get that flint out of there. That flint can be handy. So, anyway, doesn't hurt to have a lighter. So then, I'm going to show you a couple things. So this is just fat lighter. Man, you can smell it. It's just full. It's just pine sap soaked, like at the base of an old pine tree. That's where you find that stuff. Okay, so it's just, you can smell the oil in it. And I'll light a little piece here in just a second. I'll just take a little piece out of there and light it, just to show you guys. But that's that. I keep that. I also keep this. This is probably really handy. These are just cotton balls, right? I got a whole bag of them. Cotton balls soaked in Vaseline. You just take Vaseline, open the cotton ball up, and just soak it with Vaseline. I've probably had these things for 25 years, and they still light. I'll show you. We'll do a little demo. Demos never hurt. Let's see if I can get you on this. A little demonstration. Alright. You see my hand? Alright. So, what you do, you take the cotton and you kind of separate it. And you separate the fibers at the top. You see how the fibers are all separated? Alright, and you just set it down without mashing those fibers down. And then you can take a magnesium fire starter. They sell them at Walmart. You can get them in survival kits, Army Navy stores, whatever. I have one that I carry from World Survival Institute. I got it when I was in Bridgeport, California, in the Marine Corps, and I absolutely love it. Can you see that? World Survival Institute. Anyway, so it's got your flint on one side, magnesium on the other, and it has a piece of porcelain on here for sharpening a knife. So it's multi-purpose. But you're going to want to take your fire starter and get up close to the cotton ball. And light it on fire. Can you see it? Then the cotton ball will sit there and burn for a very long time. Yeah, a good 5-8 minutes. That's plenty of time to put. That's plenty of time to put, you know, tinder on it. So this fat lighter, you see the smoke, right? See the smoke? That's just pure oil, right? And we'll lay that down there with that. We'll see how long that fat lighter and all that goes. But that's kind of cool. So that's my fire, and I don't care how wet it is or whatever, I'll get a fire. Alright, I will get a fire. Okay, so cotton balls really work real well. Let me just kind of see, y'all can kind of see that fire over there. I need something dark behind it so you can see it. There you go. Anyway, whatever. Alright, so there's that. There's fire. I'm going to get into, let me see, hold on, fire. I did the 3 F's. Let's talk about signaling real quick. Whistle. I talked about the whistle. I talked about the signal mirror. Works real well. If you're going to signal an aircraft, you put your V up in there, put it on his eyes, and you can signal the aircraft. Right, that's the easiest way to do it. Now you can look through the little eye hole and it's a pain in the butt. But you can shine it on your hand and then you know when it comes off. Anyway, that's a signal mirror. You can get them at an Army Navy store. This is a really old one. The back of it's all delaminated, but it's really, the front of it's really good. Good glass. That fire, by the way, is still going. Pretty cool. I keep it in a pouch, little small pouch, keeps it protected. Signal mirror. Whistle. Another thing. Another whistle and a flashlight. So I'm going to show you something. Hold on. I think I got another flashlight in here. It has a... Yeah, that's right in here. Hold on. It's filtered. It's filtered. I know. It's going to take me a second. Hold on. Alright. There we go. Alright. Teach you something. It just went out. My fire just now went out. You can see the smoke. But it's still got an ember. Look at that. Look, it's right here. It's out. But if you got an ember, I bet if I put that fat lighter back on there and blow it, I can get that thing to light back up. Well, I don't guess I have the skills. I do. It doesn't always work. Anyway, back to signaling. I told you about the flashlight. Here's another cool thing. So that's just a Coke lid. So you know at night, you got to save your night vision. There's a red lens flashlight. Red lens. Like Coke. But if you want to signal, you can get like a Pepsi, and that's a blue lens. You can get a 7-Up or a Sprite, and that's a green lens. But you can get all these different caps and keep them in your kit. And then if y'all got certain signals, you can use them for signaling. So, something to think about. And it's cheap, right? Flashlight and a Coke cap. That's a mini mag there. It's a little bit bigger than my other one, but they're pretty good. This one's got the LED light in it. It's a little bit brighter than the old one. The other one's pretty old. Alright, so we talked signaling. The only other piece of signaling that you need to know is the universal SOS signal, right? People go SOS on the ground. You don't have to do that. You can build 3 of anything. 3 piles of rocks the same size, separated by some space in a single line, or 3 fires in a single line. That's the universal distress signal, or universal for SOS. If you don't have a radio, you don't have comms, you have no way to get out. But anyway, so I thought I'd share that with you. That's signaling. Now let's talk about WaterPro. I'm going to show you what all I have for WaterPro. 1 gallon bags. That's a lot of water, folks. You put that you can fill those up, and I've used them at the creek and bring it back, and you can store water at your campsite or your location, so you don't have to keep going back down to the creek to fill that up. You can boil your water, let it cool, and pour it in a bag. Boil your water, let it cool, and pour it in a bag. You get that bag full, you set it aside, you know that you set it over in a different spot, and you know that's your clean water. So, very handy, plastic bag. Here's another one. It's simple water purification tablets. I think I got these. These are Coleman water purification tablets, and the writing's so small on them. Let's see. Add 2 tablets to 1 quart of water. Cap loosely shake. Wait 5 minutes. Shake container to allow screw threads to get moist with that water. Then wait 30 minutes before drinking. So these are 30 minutes. The ones in the military, we always went with 1 hour contact time. So you put it in there, wait 5 minutes, let it dissolve, shake it up, let the water get out of the cap, and then tighten the cap up and let it sit for, we do an hour. But this says 30 minutes. Simple container at Walmart. Pretty simple. You can fill that up with water, and I mean that's over a quart. I don't know, it wasn't very expensive. It was like a couple dollars, whatever. That's pretty much Water Pro. You can take muddy water and strain it through a layer of, if you have some material, make a tripod and put 3 different layers of material on it. It's called a water still. And you put edible vegetation in the top, and then underneath the next layer of cloth you can put charcoal, and then the bottom layer you put sand. And bucket of muddy water, pour it right in there. When it comes through there, it comes through the charcoal will get a lot of the pathogens out, and then it goes through the sand, it gets a lot of the debris and dirt out. And it'll come out crystal clear, and you'll have that clean water, but you still need to boil it, because 2 microns or smaller, Giardia, or anything above 2 microns, you run the risk of Giardia and other viruses or stuff getting into the water. So, all right, let's talk about shelter. I didn't bring it in here, but poncho liner or tarp. This is a Marpac tarp. I got this from a really good friend of mine in North Carolina. Love you. So love it, love it, love it. I got that. And cordage. So it's my little bracelet here. I can always have cordage. They call them survival bracelets or whatever. I'm not very coordinated, but you always got cordage if you got that on right. And then I always keep me a really good section, daisy chain section of 550 cord. That's probably 100 and some feet. Remember, in 550 cord you got 7 more strands inside there, so don't waste any of it. I never cut cordage unless I absolutely have to. I try not to cut it. And if I can find natural cordage instead of using this like vines, I'll use that before I use this. I need to keep this and save this. I might need it. So try to use your natural stuff that's in your surroundings. Space blanket. Simple survival wrap space blanket. That with a poncho and poncho liner, you can keep warm. I do have a poncho and poncho liner that I take with me in my bag. And if I can take it in a survival situation, I would, because that poncho makes great shelter. So does the tarp. But it makes awesome shelter. And shelter. But you can build shelter out there. Remember, there's all kinds of building material. And if it's cool out, remember, the smaller the shelter, the warmer the shelter. If it's hot out, the bigger the shelter, the cooler the shelter. And if it's hot out, you want to build your shelter in some type of shade, right? If you build a shelter out in the sunlight, kind of defeating the purpose, right? So, something to think about. All right. Let me see. So we did food, first aid, fire, shelter, signaling, water, and now let me just go through gadgets. I think that's all I got left. A couple things, gadgets. Look, you need a good knife. You need a really good knife. You can use it as a weapon, you can use it as a tool, but you got to have some way to sharpen it, right? So, I have a sharpener, right? It's a hook sharpener, and it's a knife sharpener. It also has a hole in it. Now, I can use that for coal burning, and I have, to make bowls out of wood with coal. And I can use this to hold a piece of coal down on the wood, and use this to blow on that coal to burn down through the wood. Just kind of like the Indians did when they would do the dugout canoes. They would cut the wood down, they would burn, they'd put a fire on it, they'd burn it, they'd scrape it out, and then they'd put more, once they got all the charcoal scraped out, they'd put more fire in it, and that's how they made the dugout canoes. So you can make bowls, cups, whatever, all kinds of stuff. Coal burn. So you got that. I got another knife sharpener. These are just examples. This is a good one. I think it's a Lansky. Anyway, not sure. Got a little thumb hold. You can set it down on something. You got ceramic and metal. And the other one I think I put underneath here. This is a small one. This is a Lansky. Yeah, this is a Lansky for sure. But this has got the same thing. It's got metal on one side, and it's got your porcelain on the other, or ceramic. So, good knife sharpener, good knife, good small cleaning knife, big knife for protection. And let me tell you what, folks, a multi-tool. This is a Gerber, not my preferred, but it's the one I got. I like the Leatherman Super Tool. It's more versatile and it's got a better saw on it. Oh, speaking of saw, shoot, I didn't show you my saw. $3 at Ollie's. You want to build a log cabin? You can build one with this. It's a whole lot easier than that little saw on that Gerber, and it doesn't weigh anything. And it's $3. I bought 3 of them for $3. If it breaks, I throw it away, I get another one. And if this does break or come apart, keep the blade, and you can put the blade in a piece of wood and use it. So, but handy piece of gear. And like I said, multi-tool. Got another knife on there. I don't think this one has a very good saw. It does have a file and kind of a cheater saw with a little serrated edge stuff. Phillips screwdriver, bottle opener in case you run across a whole case of Corona out there or something. Not COVID, Corona. I'm talking about the beer. So, knife sharpener, can opener, whatever. But multi-tool, pair of pliers, that's handy. Now, this is what I use to put them screws in, those Phillips screws in the wood to hold my snares down. So, anyway, tape. Talk about tape and talk about water bottle. So, I'm going to show you a really good way if you want to just make sure you always have tape with you. You can just put it around your water bottle and use good tape. This tape kind of sucks, but use like Gorilla Tape. So then what I always do, because you usually have gloves on or something, I always tag that in. I always tag that in where I can get a hold of it. But you got this out there, doesn't want anything, you're drinking water, and crap, I need a piece of tape. So you just Peel it off. Peel your piece of tape off. Maybe you got a hole in your poncho and your roof's leaking. Just put it right over the hole. Alright, so this is another little trick, another little tidbit. You can use electrical tape too. Electrical tape's fine. But if you're going to like patch a hole in a poncho or something like that, you need something a little bit bigger. Electrical tape won't do it. 6 elements of survival: food, fire, first aid, shelter, signaling, and water. Number one necessary thing to have in a survival situation is a positive mental attitude. Watch a lot of survival shows. You'll learn from people's mistakes and work on these skills. They are perishable. If you don't get out and practice how to make fire, I don't have a bow and drill kit here. That could be another video, but you will get wore out doing a bow and drill. Remember what I said about bow and drill? It's all technique, just straight up technique. You gotta have the right length of a bow. It's very important. The type of wood that you use for your drill and your fireboard is also very important, but it's all technique. So that covers survival. I don't know how long this video is. What is it? 46 minutes. I don't think anybody's going to watch it that long. But anyway, just Google through it. I mean, speed through it. But that is my survival kit. Recommend you get out there and practice. So, God bless everybody. Keep your powder dry. Sic Semper Tyrannis.